Good morning friends. Today we are going to discuss about the reading comprehension of technical materials. In this webinar we'll be discussing how to read textbooks and other technical materials. Well, I am Nasir Ali MK, Assistant Professor, Department of Education, Aligarh Muslim University Center, Malappuram in Kerala. This is a particular topic that I think you will find interesting because a lot of people have questions how to get comprehension when they are reading very dense, very technical, sometimes even boring material. But they have to read it for work, maybe for studies, maybe for exams, maybe for schools or colleges. So there are a number of ways that we can get better comprehension, and before proceeding I would like to discuss something about reading comprehension is the processing of text. Text can be from a newspaper, any other reading material such as books, a research report, etc. And it is understanding of its meaning and to integrate with what the reader already knows. We know that to get the clear information while reading a text, we should relate, we should integrate, or we should assimilate the knowledge information which we receive by the new reading with what we already had. Now we look into the different skills required for reading comprehension of the technical material. First thing is the knowing meaning of words. We should know the meaning of words that are used in the material. Not necessarily all the words, but most of the words, if you know, we can get the information by reading. No matter even if we do not know the meanings of some words. And we should have the ability to understand from discourse context. So the ability to understand some words, some usages in the context of the discourse. That's it. Then we should have the ability to follow organization of passage, how passage has organized. And we should have the ability to identify antecedents and references in it, what kind of references it has made. Because sometimes the author of the material might have used some references, might have related the content which he discussed with some other material. So we should have that. And we should have the ability to draw inferences from a passage. After reading a passage, after reading any material, we should understand it. Then we should know to draw some inferences based on our understanding. We should identify the main thought of a passage, and we should be able to answer the questions that may be given at the end of the passage. If it is a textbook, mostly there will be some questions given at the end of each unit or each chapter. So by reading the material, we should be able to answer the questions. We should recognize the propositional structures used in a passage and determine its tone. So how the author has used different structures in the writing, that we should understand. And we should also determine writer's purpose, why this paper, why this material is being written by the author, and his point of view. And we should draw inferences about the writer too. So we should draw the inferences about the writer, about the content, also. See, an individual's ability to comprehend text is influenced by their skills and their ability to process information. There's the individual differences. All the people do not understand the same way when they read the same material. So the understanding level is different and is depend on their skills that we have already discussed. Multiple reading process MRP can be the strategy to read a technical material where you preview, overview, read, do a final review, and then maybe recite or talk about. So, when you first get the book, before you start reading any chapters, you should preview the entire book. So, if you are a student, at the beginning of every semester, you get a syllabus. At the beginning, that first week, what I recommend you to do is you read the introduction and summary of each and every single chapter. Now, why would we want to do this well? We want to get an idea what is the whole semester, what is the whole book going to discuss. We already know that by the title, but we can actually get a lot of good information by just reading introductions and conclusions to every chapter. So read the introduction, objectives if any, and or outline. Outline in the technical materials may be given in the form of an abstract too. Then read the conclusion, and if it has some questions, read it, then make some notes. And don't worry if you don't understand clearly when you are reading the introductions and conclusions. Now let's say you don't have to read the entire textbook. You just read the introductions and summaries of the chapters. Now, if you are not a student and you are just reading a technical material, it's still a good idea to kind of break down that entire book. So the other reason you want to do this is to figure out the structure of the book. Every single book has some kind of structure. You can break it down and figure out what that is by just a kind of paging through the entire book. We listen to the second point where I told you that read the conclusions and or questions. So if the material has some questions given at the end, it is always good to read or go through those questions before you really read the material. Why? Because it will help you to get an idea what you really need to know after reading this material, so that when you read further, definitely you will be having these questions in your mind, so that you can easily find its answers. And the same way, if you note some points, or if you really take some notes, that will also help you when you read further. So that's the preview. And by the way, if you are taking notes, that's going to further enhance your ability to remember the information and also to comprehend the information, because when you are taking notes, you are making connections in your brain with different ideas and concepts that are going on in that chapter or material. So make sure you do a preview read, something from the very beginning and introduction, or so, and something at the end, maybe your summary and maybe your question as well. And then we go on to our overview. Overviewing of a technical material includes reading the headings, subheadings, bold-faced words, first sentence of a paragraph, of course, I would recommend you to read 2 or 3 sentences of each paragraph. Why? Because some people tell they have got the material, but they find no headings, they have no subheadings, it does not have any bold-faced words. What do I do? And in those kind of situations, it is recommended you read the first sentence of every paragraph. Why? Because it tends to be the main idea or the topic sentence. Now we know it does not happen all the time, but most of the time it does. And if you read the first sentence of every paragraph, you will get a pretty good idea of what you are about to read. So this overview could include all of these headings, subheadings, bold-faced words, and first sentences, or it might just include looking you know scanning your headings and subheadings. Have you ever thought how people start reading when material is given to them? They, of course, they start with the third step, that is the reading, isn't it? Why? But here you see we have already reviewed the material, then we have overview. How these two prior stages will be helping individuals if they do it before they read actually. Of course, it will improve the retention, and it will definitely be giving a good comprehension of the material that they read, because they have already reviewed and overviewed. They are almost know what they are expected to read in the material. That's it. So while you are reading, you want to read section by section, taking notes after each section, or whenever you come across something that you really need to know, well, that time you note. Or maybe you find something that's worthy of taking notes, that time you can take notes. Now, when while we are reading through the material, a lot of people have a question: when exactly do I take notes? You know, some people they take notes the moment they read something important, and they will take notes right away. There are varieties of ways you can do this. What uh, I recommend you is take notes at the end of sections in your technical material. So for example, when you get to a new headings or a new subheading, that's like a little break point where you can take a quick note on what you have just read above. Another idea is through a paragraph and you come across something that's really important, you just wait until you finish the paragraph and then take the notes. Don't take the notes in the middle of reading a paragraph. Try to wait until you get to the end, because at the end of a paragraph you could really figure out what is the most important thing here, what you need to write down. that that's it. You listen to the second point where I told you that read the conclusions and or questions. So if the material has some questions given at the end, it is always good to read or go through those questions before you really read the material. Why? Because it will help you to get an idea what you really need to know after reading this material, so that when you read further, definitely you will be having these questions in your mind so that you can easily follow. And then we go on to our overview. Overviewing of a technical material includes reading the headings, subheadings, bold-faced words, first sentence of a paragraph. Of course, I would recommend you to read 2 or 3 sentences of each paragraph. Why? Because some people tell they have got the material, but they find no headings, they have no subheadings, it does not have any bold-faced words. What do I do? And in those kind of situations, it is recommended you read the first sentence of every paragraph. Why? Because it tends to be the main idea or the topic sentence. Now we know it does not happen all the time, but most of the time it does. And if you read the first sentence of every paragraph, you will get a pretty good idea of what you are about to read. So this overview could include all of these headings, subheadings. Have you ever thought how people start reading when material is given to them? They, of course, they start with the third step, that is the reading, isn't it? Why? But here you see we have already reviewed the material, then we have overview. How these two prior stages will be helping individuals if they do it before they read actually. Of course, it will improve the retention, and it will definitely be giving a good comprehension. Now you see on the margin of the material itself also we can take the notes. So here we have written on the material, on the margin of the material we have taken the notes. So that's also a way to take the notes. And another way is highlighting the points on the reading material itself. So here you see there are two pictures. In this picture, some it seems that some important points are only highlighted because all the lines are not highlighted. You see in the second picture, this particular reader has highlighted almost all the lines, all the words in his material. So they are going mad in highlighting, some people, when they get the highlighter on their hand. So the first one, where the important points are only highlighted, is the good way, and the second picture where everything is highlighted is the bad way of highlighting. You listen to the second point where I told you that read the conclusions and or questions. So if the material has some questions given at the end, it is always good to read or go through those questions before you really read the material. Why? Because it will help you to get an idea what you really need to know after reading this material, so that when you read further, definitely you will be having these questions in your mind, so that you can easily find its answers. And the same way, if you note some points, or if you really take some notes, that will also help you when you read further. So that's the preview. And by the way, if you are taking notes, that's going to further enhance your ability to remember the information and also to comprehend the information, because when you are taking notes, you are making connection. Now most of the cases, the technical reports will have lots of figures, diagrams, charts, etc. So when we these mostly these will be given a number like 2.1, 2.2, etc., and this number will be given or referred in the paragraph. So what should we do when we see as shown in the diagram 2.1, as given in the picture, etc.? So my point is that whenever you see like these references to diagrams, pictures, etc., sometimes the diagrams or pictures may be given on another page. So better you stop reading that and see the diagrams, charts, whatever it is, then understand it, then come back to reading. That will be the best. some people keep on reading till the diagrams comes. So that is not a good idea, because whenever it was referred, that time itself we should understand what is given on the picture. So stop reading, go and see the diagram, charts, etc. Then come back, continue reading. That will be the good way. Now the technical materials may have endnotes, footnotes, etc. So here some footnotes are given. Footnotes are the notes given at the uh, footer side of the page. So there will be a number letter that will direct where from it has come. So here, while reading a paragraph, suppose some number that directs you to the full note came. So that time what you need to do is either you can stop there and go to the footer side, refer to the footer note and come back, then continue reading. But I would suggest you to continue reading, complete the paragraph, then if really you need to know what is given on the footer side, that time you go and read it. And it is not always necessary to read the footer notes. Sometimes it may be footer notes may be just reference reference uh, and sometimes it will be a descriptive explanation of something. So better way is continue reading till the end of the paragraph, then go and refer the footer note. Now the reader may have some situation where he reads one sentence, he doesn't understand what it is, then he rereads it again, still he doesn't understand, so he repeats reading it for several times, up to 5-6 times, but still it does not get into his head. So I would suggest you a strategic reading. And here the why the problem exists is, once if we read that time we did not understand it. Why? Because sometimes in that sentence the author might not have given the made the thing very clear. So better you don't reread the sentences at that time. You continue reading till the end of the paragraph, then you see, because it may be the idea may be conveyed not through a single sentence, it will be given in a context. So we reread and find it. Better to avoid rereading several times after just one sentence is read. Complete the paragraph, then also if you do not get it, you reread, otherwise you leave it. And don't think that while reading all the words word by word will not be understood to you, and that's not needed also all the time, because all the words are not relevant. What the idea has given by the writer is most important. And of course sometimes some terms that will have to be by hearted, so that time you can repeat it, then by heart it. And sometimes some formulae, some names, it should be by hearted, so in that cases you will have to repeat it, otherwise you just get the idea. And as far as the technical reports or technical materials are concerned, some technical terms would have been used by the writer, so that should be well understood by you. So when you just get those terms first time, you will not get the idea, but when you complete the reading of the material, that time only you will be getting the idea. So such terms, if any are coming in between your reading, you just note it, you just make a note there, highlight the term, then after reading the entire material for once or twice, you can know what it is. and after completing the reading, you can reread any section that did not that was not understood by you. And sometimes the headings, subheadings, and bold-faced letters, bold-faced words that can be reread and understood again. And if sometimes, as I already told you, are worth to be memorized, those things also can be reread. And I would like to summarize the skill areas for reading a technical paper in the following steps. First one is quickly scan the paper or article for headings or headlines. Use the headings to help you to create a mind map. Then skim the paper, highlight the key sentences or idea in each paragraph, add the key ideas to the mind map, read the article and add any items that stand out that have not been noted. Then review your mind map, then underline and define any unknown terms, and finally summarize your understanding in writing or verbally or by uh, someone. So thank you for listening to me, and hope you have understood how the reading comprehension of technical materials can be done. Thank you a lot, and if you like this video, you can subscribe my YouTube channel. Thank you.